Ted, what's the most exciting thing in the world?
Getting a new instrument.
What's the most disappointing thing in the world? Getting the wrong instrument.
Correct.
So today we're going to present a piano buyer's guide, helping you navigate the tricky, difficult landscapes of finding the right instrument. Stick around.
Hi, this is Ted with Alamo Music Center in beautiful downtown San Antonio, Texas.
And I'm Patrick Marr. You can find us online at alamomusic.com. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our YouTube channels, check out our other videos, sign up for notifications, like our videos, leave us comments. We really appreciate the support and we love to interact with you guys. Well, Ted, first, a thank you for subscribers. We have 4,000 subscribers. We really appreciate it. It really helps us.
Big landmark for us.
Yeah, helps us keep a metric on how many people we're reaching, and we really appreciate your support. But really wanted to give some value here of navigating, finding that right instrument. It's the best thing in the world when you find the instrument that you want to purchase. But it can take years.
It can take a long time. Mm-hmm. I mean, even just, to find one, and then, of course, a lot of times you got to pay for it too, right?
Oh, yeah.
But the thing is that so much has changed, but still stayed the same. Mm-hmm. And when I first came to work here like 25 years ago, the first job you have when you don't know what the job is, and your grandfather was big on this. Here's a buyer's guide. We actually had a thing we used to make, a folder, real nice folder, custom made, printed, Alamo's logo, all kind of fancy stuff on it. And you opened it up and it was like a report and everything you never really cared to know about a piano, but it's all in there. Mm-hmm. And then on this side was everything you didn't really care to know about selling a piano. And so they had a lot of manufacturer's information was in there, and like how do you present a piano to a family that walks in? And so much of this information was really cool because it was retail 1957 through about 1974. So it had the right amount of salesman's precision and corn in it as well. So it was really kind of...
It was that mid-century salesman.
And it was filled with all these brochures and all kind of promises and warranties and everything like that. And it was a lot like a Tin Man package, really. Mm-hmm. But it was for pianos. But it had some really interesting things in there because the most interesting thing it had in there is what is the right piano for you? And no one can answer that question except the person that has this thought or this dream or this return to the piano in their life. And some of that is, in this day and age, really confusing, certainly to like someone that hasn't been around music for, say, 20 or 30 years and they're going back to it. All the instruments have changed. And how do you know which one to get? Well, what if I buy this one and I find out later on this other one does this? And then, well, that's like buying a car or a house, right? Mm-hmm. So you kind of have to look around and find out what is it you want. And so whenever people come in, and I've even had people with their checkbooks out ready to buy something, I said, sure, buy it, and then we'll talk about what it is that you want. Because what is it that you want, and it's the main important thing is that instrument. But that instrument is just like a stepping stone.
It's a tool.
It's to get somewhere. Mm-hmm. Because the ideal of a piano player, if you're thinking about like a traditional piano player or even a digital piano, the ideal of a piano player is I take it with me. Mm-hmm. So your ability to play is not attached only to your instrument, it's wherever you go. Mm-hmm. So if you go to someone's house, they have a piano, you get a chance to play, or a church or wherever you go. So how do you acquire that talent is through a personal instrument. Mm-hmm. And you have to spend long hours of this so you can carry this with you. So what are the things you think about? What are the first things? Well, I know I don't want a big piano because it's going to take up space. And so all these other things that don't really have to deal with the education of the piano or acquiring the skills comes into play. Mm-hmm. I only have space for a little thing in my house, but I love a big grand piano. Well, that guy needs a digital. Mm-hmm. He needs a 9-foot sound in a really small box. Yeah. And you can get that.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I 100% agree that starting with a goal in mind, with the end in mind, thinking of what is my purpose in doing this, or who am I buying for, if it's for your kids, if it's for someone else, if it's a gift, answering that question of what is the end goal, the end result, it's very important. It's almost the most important thing, because at the end of the day, whatever instrument you're purchasing, whatever thing you're getting isn't what the end goal is. The end goal is going to be something that you carry around.
Through that thing.
Mm-hmm, and it's a journey with that tool with that stepping stone, like you said. And so understanding, terminology, understanding where we are in 2021 with options, with all this, a whole bunch of stuff has just been blasted at people for so many years. And it can be very intimidating to say, okay, I'm ready. I think I'm ready to start this process. And really we kind of want to knock down some of those barriers today and say, hey, look, it's not as complicated as people make it out to seem. There are a lot of options, but really it can be a fun journey, and it can be rewarding in the end, finding that thing that you love, checking the boxes that fill in for you,
right.
And kind of starting that journey of, okay, I'm going to go down and see what does this piano have to offer for me, or should I be looking at acoustic? Should I be looking at digital, new, used? And so we're going to kind of talk about some of these more generally here. Our goal is to actually make this more of a series and uncover some of these topics a little bit more in depth. But really, I do believe the key to this is, what is the end goal? The next thing I think that is something that we'll touch on here is budget and value. And so, Ted, I know you have a big philosophy on value, especially when it comes to instruments. But
right.
but I think it's important to understand these things can cost,
astronomical amounts of
There's
money.
a free one. I can guarantee there's a free piano in your neighborhood right now, or a family member is dying to get rid of something, or died and getting rid of something.
If a realtor has a piano, that means someone left it in a house, and it's going to have a short rope on it to get out of that house.
Well, so there's free instruments everywhere, and what is the value of that instrument? What is the value that you're willing to put into this time investment of finding the right instrument for either you or for a loved one or whoever this is for? But I think uncovering what are you willing to spend, not only monetarily, but with your time as well. What are you willing to invest into this project? If it's, I got to find an instrument for little Johnny, he starts lessons on Monday, what's the best thing that I can buy that Amazon can ship to me in 2 days? Then the value, you're gonna get what you pay for, literally, and you might get the right thing, you might have to realize that I need to return this and get something different.
Overbought for little Johnny.
And so I think it's really important to budget both your time and your resources to finding the right instrument and saying, hey, I think I can allocate this much time, I think I can allocate time to lessons, I think I can allocate money for lessons, and then kind of structuring it as a budget, because a lot of times you can go in and underpay for something or overpay for something just based on bad planning.
Well, the other thing too with budget is a lot of people, and this is quite common, is they already have a preconceived idea of what kind of piano they want in their house. It's like, I want an upright, and it needs to be an old beat up one so it looks like a saloon. It'll match my bar. It'll match my room. It'll match where it's going in the house. Or I need to have a little grand. If it's too big, it won't go here, and we just can't have that. It needs to be white. Or whatever. These kind of things take priority over everything else about whether it plays right, sounds right, works right, functions right. These are the most important things to the person when they're telling you that. I need this, or that. As opposed to the one piano customer, I think he's bought 5 pianos from us in probably 6 or 7 years. He started off, he put in a bid on a piano that was going to the dump. I don't know if you remember him, but 6 months later he came back and actually bought a piano. And then 6 months later he bought another one. And this guy upgraded himself to where he's got this really great, nice grand piano now. And he really couldn't play. He was mostly a guitar guy. He spent all his time on the other side of the store, but then out of nowhere, I don't know, he watched a show, he got inspired, something hit him, and he just wanted to be a piano master dude. And he started off with a clunk, but he knew what he wanted. I just want to get good on it, and I'll throw it out and get something better, because he was down here a lot. That's the guy that you can't explain the purpose. He already has his purpose. He already knows what he wants. I just need an instrument that's good enough to play on. And he went in there and he got that for himself. And now he's got something really decent. As opposed to some other people who come in here and they buy, a $30,000 Disclavier and their kid never plays it. They don't learn on it because, well, they thought they had to use all. No, you just got to practice on it. So it's how to. No one knows what anyone else wants in terms of music talent, because everyone says, well, if I had music talent, I'd make up my own songs. Well, no, that's important, because if you're going to make up your own songs on an acoustic piano, you're going to have to learn how to write them down. Unless you get a digital, you can record them. These are all things that help people along, and most people want the shortest path to getting
Yeah.
what they want. I want to put together my own songs. Even though I can't play now, I know I want to do that because I do it on guitar. So I need a keyboard that's going to be able to allow me to put my songs together before I ever even start to learn how to play.
Yeah.
So that becomes important because I know there's a lot of potential in there for me to get on it and grow.
Well,
and that's one thing you want to make sure you have.
And I think it helps you answer the question of budget and value, because then it gets you realizing what's important to me, what am I willing to spend money on, and what are the features that I need. And so instead of looking at features and saying, oh, I think I could use that maybe to do this, knowing your goal, knowing the value that you put on these certain features, and then having the budget for it kind of all work together in a fluid state to help you find that right instrument. And then I think the next logical thing that people want to make up their mind about is, and it's kind of confusing, but is new and used. So there's a big, there's big marketing pushes for both directions, and there's the draw of, I can save a lot of money on something used, or I could buy something new and, peace of mind with warranty. And if you go into a store, you might feel pushed one way or the other. If you have someone, hopefully, that is understanding and a guide to your musical journey, they can kind of show you both, the best of both. Because it is kind of important. And I think if you're not sure what those values you care about are in the instrument, I think it's important to kind of follow and say, okay, well, I'll take a look at these nice used ones, or I'll take a look at these more affordable ones, or let's see what new can do in this price range. And there's just a whole bunch of really amazing products out there, both new and used. And so be very careful what you hear about instruments, because a lot of the times people will use that as leverage. And I won't point out anybody, but a lot of sales organizations will use that as leverage in a transaction, and can be very tricky, and can get you to say, hey, don't buy that, it's used, or, only buy a new thing. And so it's important to realize that, yes, there are dangers of buying a used instrument, and there are benefits of buying a new one. But really, if it doesn't tick all the boxes for you, you might be looking in the wrong category.
Right, and there's a couple times where people come in and they say, no, our teacher told us to just get a brand new upright, and they gave us a couple models. And you can tell by their student child that this kid really looking for $1,000. They're looking to find, and by the time they price out a brand new upright, and it doesn't matter which manufacturer, they're a pretty penny. You start comparing that to about a 6-foot used grand piano, well then some things start getting within reach, and so then they realize you don't have to have a brand new upright piano. You can get a gently used grand piano, and then we won't have to go through this process again. Yeah,
and so I think for a little bit of guidance here with new and used,
that's where it really helps out.
I think there's a couple different resources that we would recommend here. First, teacher. If you have a teacher in mind, a teacher is an excellent guide to finding. A teacher you can trust too is an excellent guide to finding the right instrument, and they will give you usually great advice on which direction to be looking, whether you should go new or used. What are the criteria? I also believe technicians are a very valuable resource as well. So if you are looking in the more used direction, a technician can be worth their weight in gold. They're not very cheap. They can be very pricey by the hour. But if you're looking for an overview of a used instrument, they can, for the most part, tell you what's wrong with it if there is something like a cracked pin block or strings missing or things that are not normal on it. They will definitely bring that up to you and save you the headache later, because once you pay for the move, pay for the piano, do all this stuff, sometimes you're underwater very quickly on what it's worth.
I used to actually use, as part of my selling tactics and buyer's guide information, was a copy of the piano book. And it's like I tell people, it's about $20. I think they're even less now. They have a couple editions out. The front third of that book is about all the information that you're going to find. You're going to find out that the stuff that he says in there is either true or truer when you go out and look at used pianos. And that actually just explains the concept of wear and tear and use over time, and which kind of manufacturers made good enough instruments to have more than just one life to it. And so those kind of things that's in more detailed. And a lot of times the buyers at first, they don't want all that kind of detail. I just want to get a feel for what's out there.
And great point, because I really wanted to bring up that the technicality can be a confusing point.
Extremely confusing.
When looking at new and used, how technical someone gets with the details, oh, look at the hammers. I mean, like, it can be very overwhelming, especially for someone who's a novice. It's overwhelming for us.
Hey, it's like I'm looking at spark plugs, but I don't know what they do.
Exactly.
They're there.
Yeah, and so
it's got hammers, 88 of them. So it is very confusing, particularly to the novice, and a lot of times it's the person that's not even playing that's paying. And so they need to have some kind of like, I don't even know I'm getting what I'm paying for.
Yeah, peace of mind is
peace of mind is a real big thing, particularly for the parents. And a lot of times the dad's like, man, I got no interest in music. My kids want to play. That's great. I buy them. But how do I know I'm getting a good deal here?
Yeah.
And
so that's the new versus used, things to kind of consider. Possible solutions, consulting a teacher or a technician, but really just don't be scared to look in both directions. There's a lot of great resources, or a lot of great products on both sides. Also, moving into another distinction, digital and acoustic.
And acoustic, those are two separate worlds. There's certain things like, years ago, if someone came in and said, hey, we're looking for a piano to put in the day room of, a nursing home or a hospital or something, a daycare, whatever kind of center they have, it would always be like a standard upright or something like that. Oh, we have a big budget. Yeah. We have a big budget. We want a nice grand piano because we have 3-4 people, residents that play, that kind of stuff. But in this day and age, it's like, hey man, just get a great digital. Because you know what's going to happen after that piano gets into that place. No one's going to come around and tune it every 4, 5, 6 months. It probably won't get tuned regular. So it's not going to keep sounding better and better every day. But at least the digital will always sound great. It'll always be in tune, and everyone will always be happy with it.
Yeah, and there's potential for labs as well. So digital piano labs, things like that. The digital world has expanded what music can be to who, and kind of access for instruments. Digital pianos started as an affordable option that really started with like portable, take it with you, ready to go.
61 note keys and then all the way up.
Ready for stage, and it's really kind of transformed into an alternative to an acoustic instrument. Especially, you can spend more on a digital instrument than a brand new acoustic instrument now, and so. Really great technology is being, it's with anything nowadays, technology has really kind of caught up to the point where it's overtaking the real world. We have AI, virtual reality, we have we have computers in our pockets that took us to the moon, in the 1960s, and now we're here with a more powerful computer in our pocket. But just kind of the same thing in the piano world. It took a little bit longer to get here, but the technology that we're seeing that comes out is incredible. And there's a bridge between those as well. There's hybrid instruments. And so we've highlighted these in a lot of different videos. Make sure to check some of those out, because we've highlighted hybrid instruments, acoustic, digital, kind of what those things have to offer. But be prepared to be looking at both of those, or if you have something in mind that says, hey, I need headphones as an option, there's acoustic pianos now that have digital technology, or if you're like, I need headphones, but I also need a real acoustic action. There's answers for a lot of these needs, and manufacturers are very, they're acutely aware of the things people are asking for, and we see every day more and more products being released that are, answering a lot of these needs. So just be prepared to look not only in new versus used, but acoustic versus digital, because it's important to kind of keep your options open unless you were looking for something specifically. And then to subset both of those, I would say in the acoustic line, you'll have to answer the question of size, whether grand piano or an upright piano. And so we're not going to get too in detailed here, but kind of the differences between those aren't just size. There's also a playing function that both the instruments will play very differently, and the way that they sound, the way that they fill a room. There's a whole bunch of different features that go into making a digital or making an upright instrument versus a grand piano. Not only beauty is
It's not just all about aesthetics.
Yeah, there's the actions are built completely differently.
And we had that. There's always at least one piano around here that's like this. It is a great playing, sounding grand piano, but nothing any woman would ever let near her home. and they're always end up in the basement. And I'll never forget that guy that went up from one piano to the other. I said, "You want to hear a great piano? You want to play and hear a great piano? You bring him down there," and fell in love with it. Complete junk. The lid didn't even set on top of it straight because the thing spent most of its life as kind of like a dish table, you know, for
and a lot of instruments do that. And so the subset of acoustics, of course, grand uprights, consoles, spinnets you see in the used market. On digitals, it kind of separates into in-home digital pianos and then like keyboards, and then hybrids kind of fits in there as well. So be prepared for this, you know, this pathway to start forking the further you get into your journey. So it's like, okay, new or used, digital, acoustic, you know.
Hey, the hybrids have been the most fun for the last 5-6 years. When the hybrids first started coming out, they literally are a lot of fun because it's a real piano and a digital at the same time.
Yeah. And
some form of that.
Yeah, and so in the digital world, you can start as, you know, something super affordable, $60, have a keyboard, a toy keyboard basically, and now as it goes up the lines, you get, you know, a bigger 88 keys weighted. Okay, now it's got legs and it comes with a stand, it comes with a bench, and then of course as you progress, it has wooden keys, it has, you know, it has an actual action built inside, it's got complete modeling. There's just so many cool things that are coming out, and really as much money as you're willing to spend is how much you know what you can get.
And that's the worst thing about a piano buyer's guide, is the more information you give someone about pianos, acoustic, upright, grand, digital, and the more helpful you try to be in explaining all of this stuff about music, all you really do is give them so much to think about, they get really confused. And so that's whenever someone says, "I'm more confused now than when I walked in here, and I know you really, really helped me a lot and gave me way too much information. I wasn't expecting this." And yeah, it is overwhelming, but it's designed to take a little bit of time and realize half of what these guys said doesn't even apply, because I'm going for a digital. And all that acoustic talk is out. Or I'm going for an acoustic, I don't care about the digital. So find what works for you. That's always the key feature. And I always tell people, focus on what it is that you want and what is your dream. If like right now you could play like you want, what would you do? If you could sit down and play something, would you play it on this piano or that digital or that keyboard? So think about where it is you want to be, what it is you want. And if you want to just sit down and play a beautiful grand piano, figure that part out, and then we'll get you going in that direction.
And so that's kind of our philosophy for doing this series is catch you early, catch you before you're in the store looking around, getting confused. We're here to help and educate, and that's kind of our goal is to present the Piano Buyer's Guide, not as something that can confuse you, but hopefully something we can elaborate.
It is a confusing process, though. It is. To us, we memorize model numbers, and then sometimes you think, if I walked in here, I wouldn't know. I wouldn't recognize anything they said.
It can be very confusing.
It can be.
And so, big overview here. Again, our goal is to kind of make specialized videos on some of these topics to kind of help you down that forking path, because it can be very difficult, and hopefully with some of this information you'll have a better view of, you know, I'm actually more interested in hybrid pianos than I thought I would have been, or I'm more interested in an acoustic instrument. And so kind of the overview here was to present big picture, just the different ways that you can go shop for an acoustic instrument. But we look forward to making some more content, more of the Piano Buyer's Guide, because this is a great topic, and I think a very educational one that can hopefully help you guys find the right instrument wherever you're located, on whatever budget. And really, that first point that we made, knowing the goal and what you want to be doing at the end, I think is the most important thing.
The focus is on the individual. What do they want in terms of music?
Because the journey is going to be, you know, internal. It's going to be you. It's not going to be the instrument.
No one can practice for you and make you play it.
Yeah.
You have to do it yourself.
It's very exciting. I'm glad you guys are watching, because I'm glad you guys are looking for an instrument. But this is Ted Barslew. I'm Patrick Marr with Alamo Music Center in San Antonio. You can find us online at alamomusic.com. Thank you guys for watching.